Hello, welcome to Linux Normal. Sorry for the long break. It's been about a month. Excuse me. So I'd like to put one out now. And the subject of this video is going to be temptation to go back to Windows, or Windows temptation. Not everything works in Linux the way it does in Windows. When I'm saying that, I'm talking about certain programs, even certain things you're used to doing online might not on the internet might not work. So that's the examples of that are pretty rare in my experience. But overall, for a typical user, you'll bump into something here and there. And when you do, you feel a strong temptation, especially after trying to figure out what's going on and you can't find out, or click on something or download something that fixes it, or change a setting or whatever, to go back to Windows. The short answer, to save anybody that doesn't want to continue on to the end of this video, is go back to Windows. If you want to go back to Windows, if you have to have every single thing you do work without having any effort at all, yeah, go back to Windows. It's fine. What I've found that I make a decision that is how important is that thing that's not working to me to work on my Linux computer. And if it's not that important, then I don't seem to sweat it. And I've yet to really run into something that is a deal breaker, if you will, for me to want to go back to Windows. That's just how I am, though. If you have to have everything you see, and you want the world to be open to you with no restrictions, and have everybody see what you're doing, or you don't mind the various ways Microsoft breaks their own operating system. Not to get too preachy or anything, but for me, it's to have that headache of having Windows out of my life is worth it, especially now. One example I've come across that happened to me like during this 4 week break is I tried using a streaming service in my web browser on my Linux computer that didn't want to work. Simply because it said that it detected the operating system I was using was a Linux operating system, and they don't support it. It's an American television network streaming service that I will not divulge their name or anything, but that was the only thing. Other streaming services that I go to on my web browser work fine. Many of them, as a matter of fact, some of them, because of me, I'm a little nerdy, and I put certain add-ons and stuff on my personal browser that I use, Brave web browser. It'll block the commercials too. So even though some streaming services have commercials, it still works with the streaming service, but I don't have to, watch the commercials. So, yay. They're getting plenty of other data for me, I'm sure, when I log on and what I'm watching, that I'm still paying in a roundabout way for their service plenty, especially with the monthly fees. We have a lot of monthly fees, nominal fees of $8 here, $5 there, $10 there, whatever, a month for various little streaming services. That it's not that big of a deal for our personal budget for our family, and so they're already getting money from me. Okay, if I don't, if I skate out of watching commercials once in a while using one or two services on my computer, it doesn't hit my conscience whatsoever. So that was an example. I was like, okay, so how important is that streaming service for me to get to work on my computer to make me want to go back to Windows? And for me, it wasn't important at all, really. I mean, we use Roku devices for the streaming services also, and it works perfectly fine on those when we're watching them on our big TVs in our family. We have two different big TVs in our house, and they work fine on there. So for the one time I was kind of, being kind of weak and just kind of goofing off and wanting to have TV on in my office here for a little bit. Um, if it didn't work to watch the one thing I was kind of curious about checking out or something, whatever. It's not a big deal. I'll watch something else if I want to goof off. It's not that big a deal. So for me, it wasn't a big deal. So, but yeah, I would suggest, just go back to Windows. Uh, there's a number of benefits for being in a Linux operating system that you have to weigh. Those benefits of security through obscurity is a sort of a industry term or phrase that we use. If that's not that important to you, if the freedom from being independent from Microsoft and not being at the mercy of how they try to update their operating system and break it many times, break something on it. Maybe you haven't run across them breaking something that mattered to you. One of the days they will. And when they do, you will feel so violated and trapped because Microsoft has broken or even bricked your hardware, your machine that you paid for. And there was nothing you could do about it. That just has to happen once to somebody, in my experience, to really be serious about looking for alternatives. Most of the time, it drives somebody to Apple because they're not quite brave enough to give this sort of what they see as a hobbyist operating system of Linux, to give that a go. Unless they're a little desperate, they don't have the money to buy an Apple. So then they look at, trying to put Linux on the machine that they had to give that a shot, right? So, and that's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to try. And because you're really not losing anything. You don't have to pay any money for using a Linux operating system. And give it a go. And if it doesn't work for you, then you can look for the other options to try. So there you go. I'd like to again say that I plan on putting up at least one video a week. Work it up toward hopefully getting a video a day. Especially with my sort of fractured, what do you call it? It's the series, I guess. The series of the daily normal. It hasn't been very daily. I will try to get those to be much more daily, as the name suggests. But kind of rededicating. Kids are back in school now and everything. It's a little bit easier to kind of get stuff done. So there we are. But I hope you have a great day, and I'd like to encourage you to stay normal and give Linux a chance.